Feel-Good Breakfast Show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. Expresso here on SABC3. Now, Human Rights Day is around the corner on the 21st of March. And to get into the spirit of things, Tenji chatted with Nikki Bush about how parents can teach their children to be more tolerant and loving as we look to building a stronger South Africa.
With Human Rights Day around the corner, we decided to chat to creative parenting expert Nikki Bush about why it's so important to get our children to get along with one another. Nikki, I think we're still going through quite a transitional phase in our country, and a lot of parents really don't want their children to repeat their mistakes. At what age do you think children start to see difference?
Tenji, I don't think they see race. Our children coming up didn't live through the era we lived through. So they are in essence colorblind. They start noticing race when we tell them to notice race. Until then, they're just all kids together. We have to, as adults, be really careful of the prejudices that we pass down to our children. We have to be more aware of what we say, how we say it, and where it's coming from.
And how can parents encourage their children to embrace difference despite growing up in particular cultural or religious upbringings?
It is about finding points of commonality, and it's not just about race and religion. You know, we're human beings first and foremost, and we have these points of common interest. So, for example, your child is in a sports team, a multiracial sports team. They all have one thing in common. They love soccer, or they love cricket, or we have all these little ballet dancers. And it's to build on those points of commonality. So that's where those intersections are. If you think of a Venn diagram in maths, those three circles, where those circles intersect is where you find those points of commonality. And you know, we don't have to force children to be best friends, but it's really important that children learn to get along, because think about the workplace. One day they're going to be out in that world of work, and you get a wonderful job, and the next thing you find you're sitting next to someone of a different religion in the cubicle next to you, or a different race, or a different language. You've got to get along with that person. You've got to have the skills, the adaptability, the flexibility, the resilience to get over yourself and to find those points of connection, to learn to work together, to learn to get the job done. It's not about, you know, your race, your religion, whatever. It's about what's our goal here and how do we bring all our best skills and character traits to bear.
And speaking about those experiences and those awkward moments, how can parents bring that diversity learning into their homes?
It's actually quite easy, but parents today are falling into a trap because they're busy, because they don't want to have an argument with their child, or they don't want to put their foot down and they don't want their child to feel uncomfortable. I get phone calls from people saying, you know, we've been invited to so-and-so's house for lunch, but my child really doesn't like their children. Could you rather come to you? And thereby you take away that learning of having to get along. Play is an international language. It crosses all cultures, all creeds, all religions, all languages, and all children know how to play.
Children absolutely love their friends and their friendships, so how can we encourage them to stand up to intolerance on the playground?
So I think the whole thing is to speak to your kids about the fact that every child wants to be loved. Every child needs a friend. Every child wants that feeling of belonging and safety and security. Every one of us and every adult. And if they see that right being taken away from a child, they need to stand up for that child, because how would it feel for them if that right was taken away from them? And these are the kind of discussions we need to be having with kids around the dinner table, that it's really not okay to have our rights infringed, and we have to look out for each other, because that's how we're going to make a more tolerant world.
Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So let's educate our children about tolerance and acceptance and build a unified rainbow nation.